Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Now, first things first, make sure you click the link in the description. Thank you to everyone who has invested in the channel. If you have not, take a look at it. It's pretty straightforward. You can read everything on there. Due to SEC regulations, I can't really talk about numbers and stuff outside of that page because everybody has to get consistent information. So look at the Q&A and you'll see all of that. Now, here's a topic I wanted to touch on because some of you sent me a video of Judge Mathis, I believe his name is. Y'all got to forgive me if I call him Judge Joe Brown or something like that. Just kind of gets jumbled together. So Judge Mathis, and I saw the video of him talking about that it was neglect of his wife. And then someone else sent me a video of like a podcaster, a black male podcaster who is going through a divorce. And just to like see all this divorce, like, and just seeing all that, it made me, honestly, it made me call my wife. I came up to the office to film this video and she was just up here. We still getting orders out for the billionaire elderberry gummies. So if you haven't got yours, they're on the way. We had the wrong postage, so they're having to go through each thing package by package and add, I think, like $2.50 to every one of them. And it was hundreds of them. So it's taking a bit of time because our post office is small and they're really busy. So we had to space it out. So it's on the way. God bless you. And thank you for the support there. And if you can't be a part of the channel investment, then take a look at this right here, because this here is our new company, supplement company, and we got more coming. I think next is the hair, skin, and nails gummies. But back to the regular scheduled programming. I was looking at this and it made me call my wife because we had met up here and I had to bring the gummies back in because she wasn't able to get any of them processed at the post office because they were swamped today. And they're swamped on Monday. Well, Monday is a holiday, but they swamp Mondays and Tuesdays normally. So we have to go like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we were up here and then I was coming to shoot a video. And when she left, and I'm looking at this because I seen the email about the podcaster going through a divorce, which I think we follow each other on social media, but I don't know him. And he's not that big. So I don't like saying people names and then like drive an audience to people who, especially if a man can't keep his marriage together. But so don't speak names in my comments because that's how you get blocked. But Judge Mathis, everybody knows him, and that's real big right now. It made me call my wife and say, hey, this person went through a divorce. 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 Like, we got to make sure that we doing what we supposed to do and that we are pleasing one another and that we're communicating our needs and expressing our needs and that we're being open and honest. Because that's one of the things that happens in a relationship where there's a lot of resentment that builds up because you just not the same, and you got to be able to communicate and you got to be able to express. And one of the things with men, and one of the reasons why men become mean, and I'm gonna go through this, but you always have to remember, if you're a woman, the first thing, and it's good if you're a man as well, to better know yourself. But one of the things that has to be understood is men, for one, don't really have a safe space to open up and to express pain and to express feelings and to express like a lack of what we're going through. And it's hard for us to show vulnerability, and it's hard for us to show weakness or hurt or pain or shame. And in essence, we kind of expect for a woman to be able to read our mind or to be constantly consoling us. And that is unrealistic and it's unfair. And that is a deficiency in men. But that is a part of what leads men to being mean, because if you lack in that area of communication and then you're expecting this woman to be like rubbing your scalp and patting your back and singing your praises and lifting you up, and she's not doing those things because she doesn't know that you need that, nor she may not feel that it's even fair or her job to be doing that. And she wants you as a man to go to God. But that leads to resentment. And as a man, we have to get to the place to where we can say, hey, when I try to be intimate with you and you say no 9 out of 10 times, I feel worthless. I feel rejected. I feel unloved. And then that makes me angry, and it makes me resentful, and it makes me want to get revenge, and it makes me want to look outside of you, and it makes me want to turn to porn or look at another woman or talk to another woman. Whereas the woman may not realize and understand the need for that level of for that intimacy from a man. And she may be like, well, I got a headache, or I'm bloated, or I'm tired, or I'm with the kids all the time, or I'm cooking and I'm cleaning and I don't feel like having sex. And so I thought you would understand that because you see all that I'm doing. And the man may be like, well, hey, do you not see all that I'm doing? Like, I'm busting my butt, I'm working X amount of hours, I'm going out here and I'm providing, and I'm being faithful, and look at all these men that's cheating, and look at all these men that's getting a divorce. And so now this is the type of conversations that come up in relationships. And that's talking about married relationships, but this is also in dating relationships, these conversations, and just being on two different pages. I was watching the guy that I was telling y'all about, the Smart Christian channel. I think that's what it's called, Smart Christian channel. I was looking at his stuff because he analyzes these pastors. And as I was watching this video, it was from a year ago, and he was showing like pastors who get in divorces. And I think it was like is a pastor disqualified or something if he gets a divorce? But in there, here's this very wise man. He studies the word, and he knows the word, and he compares the word, and he looks at the word from every angle, and he really breaks it down, and he's cool, calm, and collected. But he mentioned, like, 20 years ago, all his issues came to a head, and he had to, I think, step down in ministry or something like that. And then he said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, he felt like maybe he was ready to go back into ministry, but he didn't know if he really was, and maybe not. Maybe he wasn't ready. And he was showing on the video clips, he was showing the clips of this pastor that I think follows me on social media as well, and I may follow him, and he's pretty popular. I think he's up north, like New Jersey or something like that. And he went through a divorce, and I didn't really know that. I just was thinking he was a single pastor because I seen some of his videos. And again, I'm not speaking names because he's not that big, and so it's like if you know, you know. But he's like a maybe a shade or so lighter than me, maybe 2 shades. And I think he got a bald head, but he always kind of have a beanie on. Don't put names in the comments, you will get blocked. And he talks about like relationships and stuff sometime. And he seems pretty well received and pretty popular, but he went through a divorce. And so then I'm looking and I'm like, man, so this guy goes through a divorce. And then we already talked about Keon Henderson and Tori Roberts going through divorce. And now here's this other Christian podcaster. The guy I was telling you about, Christian, he's a podcaster, but he's Christian. He's going through a divorce. And then the other podcast that you see, the scamming podcast, or not to be disrespectful or anything, I just don't like the podcast gaslighting the ex-wife, Dear Future Wifey podcast. This guy, he went through a divorce and talking all about love and relationships, which just makes absolutely no sense. It's like you be talking about investing like EYL. Like, look at EYL. You got Earn Your Leisure. You got the one guy, I think Rashard, who I don't think he's married, but he's not talking about love and relationships. He's talking about money. He's talking about finances, which you should be talking about. Just like Anthony O'Neill, he went on a binge of like having a lot of relationship stuff on his channel, but now he's back to his core, which is money. And talk money. You're a single man, you're not married, talk about money. Don't talk about love and relationships if you don't know what you're talking about. And because you got to be in the trenches to really understand it. It's kind of like us going to LeBron James and giving him critiques and advice and our opinion on how he can be a better basketball player. It's like, really, shut up. You don't know anything about what you're talking about. And so that's my issue. So I look at this and I'm seeing this and I'm like, man, the core reason I'm gonna tell you is, and that's why I use the term mean. That's the core reason for these divorces. It's meanness. And what I mean by that is a man builds up resentment, and a man has this idea of what a man is and what a woman is. And with the podcaster, they were saying that I watched a short on it, and the lady was saying that he's filing for divorce. And then based on the wife's post, it looks like she wants to fight for her marriage and she believes in the power of God and in marriage. But he's filing for divorce. And then with Judge Mathis, it looks like his wife wants a divorce, and he's saying he wants to get his wife back, and he's saying he was neglecting his wife. And so what you have to realize is there's a through line here. And even when I was listening to the gentleman on the Smart Christians channel, and he talked about his problems, and he said, I'm still with my wife and we've had our problems. And he said, majority of it was my fault. And I thought about my marriage, and I realized majority of the problems that I've experienced in marriage were my fault as well. And typically, when I look at a marriage that is like falling apart or going through a divorce, majority of the problems come from the man. And it's like no, that's not comfortable for me to say. Like nobody wants to admit that. And I know there are women who do stuff in there, but we're talking about the majority. We're not talking about the exceptions to the rule. We're not talking about the minority. We're talking about the majority. And the majority of the time, and this is what I see from being a man, from knowing men, from studying in this field of love and relationships, and also from being a professional relationship coach. Like every day, I receive an email from a woman trying to get coaching for her husband because he has issues. And then sometimes in that coaching, I point out the woman's issues. I have to point out the woman's issues as well. And then she realizes that she has a host of issues too, and that their issues are just at war with each other. It's fueling each other. The issues going against each other. So as an example is we create narratives in our mind. And I'll give you something from a male perspective so you understand. The man may come and the man may say, well, a woman should be cooking every day, and a woman should be cleaning. A woman should be the CEO of home. And the woman and the man may just see it like that, but he may not process the monotony of that and how hard that is to do day in and day out. And he may not process that she may also be tired from dealing with the kids, or if she works a job. And then there are some women who work a job, have children, and have a house to take care of. And then the man may go to work and want to eat and have sex. So it's like work, food, sex, and may not be thinking about that. Now, if the man has to help with the kids to a degree and he's doing certain things, then okay, he processes that. But what happens is as men, sometimes we overinflate our worth. We overinflate our ego and our contribution. And we put too much on who we are. And we start to become lovers of ourselves. And we start to feel like we are God's gift to women, myself included. I've gone through those times to where it's like you thinking like, man, I'm doing all this, and I could have this, and I could have that, and I could do this, and I could do that. What are you doing? Like, what do you bring to the table? And I feel like about at least 90% of men probably go through a phase like that. And depending on how long that season lasts, it can upend the marriage. Now, a man who has a relationship with God, and he's sensitive to the Holy Spirit, that man, we are able to come to a point to where we're almost about to implode, like everything is about to be done for, and then we are quickened, like we are chastised, so to speak. We are convicted, and then we see like, okay, I'm about to lose it all. Like this marriage is about to be done. Let me reel this in. Like, let me work on me. Let me get this together. Let me submit to God. Let me repent and let me learn and let me grow and let me change. And then we make those changes. And if the season hasn't been too prolonged, there's typically time for redemption. And I found that as a coach to men and women, but being able to go into the mind of other relationships and being able to hear women on coaching sessions, and women come to me for coaching, and they have a soul tie with a man, like not literally, so that's somebody's term, soul tie, but they have a very strong emotional connection to this man, an emotional bond. And they may have been without that man for 6 months, a year. I never forget, I coached a young lady who she had been broken up with her guy for 3 years, and she was getting coaching to talk about him, and they hadn't been together for 3 years. And like he had moved on, been with several women, been in different relationships. She had even moved on and dated and been, different guys. And she literally was talking about a guy from 3 years ago. And then that became like a theme. Like women were hiring me for coaching to talk about and like get closure from me about their last relationship, which was oftentimes like a minimum of a year ago. And so that's when I started to talk to guys who would, when men would come to me for coaching, and they would be like, I cheated, or I was, what it typically is cheating. It typically just leads to cheating. Like being mean, being distant, being rude, that could be a part of it. But then all those feelings and actions lead to cheating. And I started to tell guys, like, listen, if you're willing to do the work, and you willing to make a change, you can have her back. Like you can get back with her. And there was only like once or twice that I coached a man and coached a woman, and the woman was like done. She was like completely done. But what I noticed in those situations, that I think when I really think about it, it was the women were like, they were like pick me's, and the man was abusive, like physically. And these men were like full size grown men and like pro athletes, like very strong, very dangerous. And they were physically abusive to the woman. But then on top of that, their money was inconsistent. The money was funny. And having a pick me for a wife, she's there for the money. And if you treat her well and you have money, she will stay. And if you treat her bad, you have to have enough money for her Birkins and her G-Wagons. And if your money is declining, and I remember literally being told by a woman in the past, she was like, he only has $1 million in his account. And I was like, and so that weighed into her decision to leave. And that's because, it was a famous situation, and not in a real sense, famous situation, but it was like she was there for the money. And so when he got like that, so I say that to say the personal examples that I have is typically, it's not even exclusive, or nor does it apply to every situation. Like a lot of times if a man is willing to work, like he's gonna go to therapy or go to coaching, and he's going to change his life and do right, the because the woman is so familiar with him and she loves him and she knows him, she will give him another chance. And I cannot count how many times I've been coaching a woman and I've said, if he would change and if he would like apologize and he would do some sessions with me or another professional, and he would turn over a new leaf and make a change, would you give him a chance? And it would, like, 99% of women would say absolutely. Yeah, if he literally would change, I would give him a chance. And so what happens with men is we come to a place where what we feed, it grows, and we start to get high on our own supply. Not literally, but I just want to use that little phrase somebody made up. But we start to get high off of the feeling. So the feeling of resentment and being snappy, being rude, being condescending, being distant, the feeling of seeing a woman like cry or chase us or beg us or whatever it is, it starts to make an insecure man feel powerful. And it makes an insecure man feel loved or desired or wanted. And it feeds the ego of a man. And a man starts to think that, okay, well, I must be the prize if she's crying. I must be the prize if she's begging. I must be the prize if she's chasing. I must be the prize if she wants to make it work. If she doesn't like the vitriol and the turmoil, the arguing and the bickering, and she wants to just do whatever to get it together and to get it on point, I must be the prize. And so men start to feed their ego. And I remember talking to a guy who had he had a little bit of notoriety. And he was like, man, when I go out into the world, all of these women and all of these people, like all these women are like, wow, you know, you're so amazing. I love your work. And he was like, but then I come back home and it's like, doo-doo-doo. It's like I'm nobody. Like my wife treats me like I'm nobody, like I'm a peon. And I was like, man, I feel the same way. I was like, I feel the same way. And this probably could have been like a decade ago. And I was like, man, I feel the same way. But I'm like, bro, that's what she is supposed to treat you like. Like she's not supposed to be your fan. A fan enables you. A fan allows you to self-destruct. Like a fan will buy a ticket. I read this once in a book or a quote somewhere. It says people will buy a ticket to see you set yourself on fire and burn. And that's the truth. We love entertainment. So when we are watching a Doja Cat or a Ryan Garcia, that's the boxer, some of y'all might not be into sports. When we're watching someone self-destruct, it is like, it's interesting. It's like, whoa, remember the young lady Azalea Banks? She used to be going off on everybody all the time. And then even my former client, K Michelle, which I could say her name and say that because that was public knowledge. I went on her show, but she used to snap all the time on Twitter and she used to rip people a new one. And it was entertaining. Like everybody loved to see that, them riffs and that entertainment. And that's how people are. And we don't really think about that. And so I was telling him, I'm like, your wife is not supposed to be your fan. Like, yes, she supports you. She's supporting you by having your children. She's supporting you by letting you leave and go on the road and tour and be gone all the time. Like, that's her support. But she's supposed to be the person that keeps you humble, that checks you, because we don't know how to deal with fandom. We can't handle fandom. It's like when someone has fans, what do you do to the fans? That's why I always say, I would, even with this little situation that I'm doing with the channel investment, the letter that they had initially wrote, it said, to all my fans or dear fans. And I said, take out the fans. I said, if this gonna go on the site, take out the fans, because I don't call people fans and I don't want fans. I said I call them friends or family or supporters, but I don't believe in the fan stuff and being a celebrity and being a star or nothing like that. And so I had them change that, even just that wording. You never hear me say out of my mouth, hey, I want to thank my fans, ever. But that is what is common. And so a lot of times a man wants his woman to treat him like a porn star would treat him, or like a stripper would treat him. And that's why the strip clubs stay full, because a man is seeking adulation and admiration. Now, a woman should support her man, encourage her man, speak life into her man, but it's not natural or wise or customary to be a fangirl every day for a man. And it destroys people. It really destroys people. And it can happen with men as well. If a man is always praising his woman and always touching on her and always, I have seen it make a person complacent. I've seen where men who do that, their woman gets complacent. She gets like she doesn't reciprocate. She won't reciprocate and say the same thing and do the same thing, because she gets used to just being praised and admired and showered with gifts and with money and with praise, or with physical touch or whatever. And then it takes men who are like that, to kind of pull back. And so it's what I call human physics, which I've never taken physics class, don't know anything about it, but I just coined this term, human physics. It could even be something I never read about it. But in what I call human physics is, when you chase, they run. And when you pull back, they come. And that is the sad thing about humans, is that we just cannot both give 100% and meet in the middle and be 100 and 100. It's like somebody is doing all the loving and somebody doing all the receiving. And it takes mature people, it takes bumps in the road, and it takes communication to get to a place to where both people are 100% invested. It's typically somebody is the star and somebody is the fan. Somebody is the leader, somebody is the follower, or not even, I would say somebody is the slave master and somebody is the slave. And because a man is called to lead his household and to be the leader, and a woman is called to submit unto her husband, but a man is called to love his wife as Christ loved the church. And so think about this, like, and we'll use the judge for an example because that's relevant right now. He's talking right now. The judge said that he was neglecting his wife and that he's traveling all around the country going to sporting events with his guys. And one could only imagine. Now, when they said, is it infidelity? He said that's not the reason. He had on glasses and it had a little tint, but if you look at it, he blinks like 3 or 4 times while he's answering that question. Based on body language, that is a sign of a lie. And me seeing a man who, to me, he looks tall, like he looks over 6 foot. I don't know. It could just be camera optics, but me knowing men and me looking at men, he looks like a arrogant, rude person. And he doesn't look like a nice and friendly person. So on top of neglecting his wife for work or travel, and then being with the boys, I find it very hard that you're gonna be with the boys all around the country and you're not like a man of God and like a person of he's of integrity, being a judge, but not like spiritual integrity. I see no reason that a man would not cheat. And the sex and all that stuff, it's so many prostitutes, it's so many like jump offs. There's so many women out there that's what they do. They love it. Like there's industry women in the industry who their job is to service the men in the industry and to keep their mouth shut, to sleep with these men. And so that's why you see a lot of celebrities sleep with the same woman. And that it'll come out, publicly or what have you, but they sleep with the same woman because that woman is known to not kiss and tell. Like people see him with her and they see her with different men, but she's not doing what um Corinne Steffens did, writing a tell-all. So the women who you see with multiple celebrities, it could be even more celebrities that the woman has been with and nobody knows about it because she doesn't kiss and tell. And so that's why these men go with the same woman, because it's for secrecy and privacy. And it's a lot going on out there. It is a lot going on. And it's a lot that y'all will never hear about because you literally have to be in the industry. And it's names that I have heard because I've talked to the women, and I could never say those guys' names. I probably would be killed because the names that I have heard and the women that I have talked to from being a celebrity life coach or being in the industry, those names had never been mentioned in the public for infidelity. And there are and as humans, as people, we are sheep. We, for the most part, humans are sheep. Humans are blind. Humans are naive. Humans are gullible. So I have seen people promoting certain men and certain names in the comments of posts and stuff, and like praising certain men and names and like relationship goals, or look at this man as an example, look at that man as an example. And I have been in coaching about that man or these men, and nothing has ever hit the fan about these men and what they do behind closed doors, because there is such a thing as being at a level to where the women and the men or whoever you dealing with won't tell on you because you tied in and you connected, and you so tied in that you could have them have their life taken. And there is ways that people can have someone's life taken, and it looks like natural causes. It looks like just a heart attack. I was like, oh, a heart attack at 50, a heart attack at 45. Oh, just health complications. It looks like it, like it's slow drip poison. And there are people who have access to that. And you can't speak on them people name. And if you speak on their name, and that's why for the most part, that's why I tell y'all, like, that's why I don't speak names like that. Like I'll speak certain names, but typically the names I'm speaking is the names of people who are making a mockery of God, the people who are confusing the body. I'll mention that because I feel called to mention that, because I hold myself to that same standard. And I want to be a good representation. I won't be perfect. I will misinterpret scripture a time or two. I will misuse something, and it will be due to my ignorance, not due to my negligence or like disrespect or disregard. It will be due to I just have not been enlightened to that. But when I am enlightened to that, when I learn that, I will repent and I will confess that, hey, I misused this scripture, or I said this the wrong way. And so that's when I call names with the people like the Keon Henderson and the Torrey Roberts, and they going through their divorce, and just the optics of it, of like, okay, you leave this everyday woman who helped you and stood beside you, and you go get a millionaire woman who has millions of followers. It just don't look good to me. It doesn't look genuine and honest. And it just doesn't seem like an organic type of situation. It seemed like a come up. And even with the situation with Keon Henderson asking his church for the over $4 million, as a man, if we go into our third marriage and we go into a marriage with a celebrity woman, and we know she got money, and we know her ex-husband has money, and we don't know how much money she has per se, because it's one of these new age marriages, to ask the church for 4 million could also be a subliminal way to ask your new wife for 4 million without having to ask her. And then her being your wife and not wanting to see you be embarrassed may just say, hey, whatever the church doesn't come up with, I'll stroke a check for it from my personal account, from my investment account. I'll do that. And a man will do that. A man who will be married 3 times under the age of 45 will definitely, I don't put that past that man, and will go through these divorces and still be standing up in the pulpit instead of going to sit up under a spiritual father, another pastor, and letting a man who is in the church as a minister and who is above reproach, not going through divorces and not doing this stuff, letting him preach and just feeling like, oh, I could just keep doing what I want to do and just keep preaching. I don't have any respect for that type of behavior. And that's the behavior I call out. And that's what you have to realize. The reason why a lot of these divorces are happening is because of the male ego. And while I was watching the gentleman's channel and he was showing the pastor that I'm talking about from, I don't know where the guy's from. I just feel like it's like New Jersey or something, New York. And the pastor was saying how he was going through and he was like at his worst, but yet people were calling him to go to the hospital and go here and pray for this person, pray for that person. And even though he had nothing, he didn't show it, and he kept giving and he kept serving. And he was like basically saying, because I'm built different, like I'm built like that, like I have the capacity to do that. And the gentleman who was reviewing it was like, no, you don't. You should have sat down while you was going through that divorce, and you should have sat down and been fed and been restored. And I agree with that 100%, because, and that's the inflated ego that we have in seasons of our life as men. And that inflated ego can make us attack our woman verbally. It can make us, and not even attack her, it could make us look down on her. It can make us resent her. And the pastor, he said him and his wife had irreconcilable differences. I think he was saying it wasn't cheating and it wasn't beating, but it was irreconcilable differences. And it's like, okay, well, what is that? He said we weren't on the same page. Okay, turn the page. Okay, open a new book. Open the Holy Bible that you preaching every week. Have you tried loving her the way Christ loves the church? Maybe that's an idea. Ephesians 5. Like, I can't really see the love of Christ returning void. Have you tried that? And guess what? God put that on my heart. So when I had bumped my head and I was getting an inflated ego and I thought that I was all of that, and my wife, she called it to my attention because I had a Bentley and I was at lunch with a client and her boyfriend. And the boyfriend was like, man, we was in Beverly Hills, and man, I seen this Rolls Royce and the tag said, I pay me. He was like, man, that thing was so hard. Like, I'm gonna get that one day when I get my dream car. And I was like, man, I like that. I say, hey, I'm finna put that on the Bentley. And I'm not a pastor, so I don't take up tithes and offering all that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a hard-working entrepreneur. And so I'm always creating a new business, and I have several streams of income, and that's how I earn a living. YouTube is a stream of income. Although I'm here doing life coaching and self-development, and I'm not charging you to watch my videos, they have advertisements and I get paid from that. That's why you have the opportunity right now to invest in the channel. And when you click the link in the description, it's going to show you what the channel made over the last 12-month period. We'll have 1 month to this next month, but it's a 12-month period. And I think it's like over 270,000. That's a stream of income. And that $270,000, like if you're working in corporate America, that's a blessed job. And so that's real. And so when I heard that, I was like, man, I like that because I pay me. But really, God pays me. God takes care of me, meaning me being obedient to the word, being purpose-based, me living an honest lifestyle. I am blessed by God. And I went and got that tag. I looked it up. My security guard, my homeboy, he's my homeboy, but when I go on the road, he's with me as like, accountability partner and security, what have you. Just, boots on the ground. And his wife works at the DMV. So I hit him up. I was like, hey, ask your wife to check right here, see if this. And then I went into just a state of, it was like inflated ego. So I have personal experience with this. So when I see it in another man, I can recognize it because I had that same spirit on me. And listening to, it's like when you've ever manipulated, when you've ever deceived, when you hear manipulation, you know what it sounds like. So the example was in there's this thing that I seen a gentleman do this, and I thought about that. And I maybe have done it once, but I cannot confirm it in my sales marketing, like in my email marketing. But I seen a gentleman do this. He said, if I've ever done anything for you, this is what I'm asking you to do for me. And I hate that phrase. I hate that terminology. And if you notice, even with this opportunity that I'm offering right now, you haven't heard me say, if my videos have ever blessed you, if my videos have ever helped you, then you should invest in this channel right now. Because for one, it's like, if you give, you should give with a glad heart. You should give with a cheerful heart. And you shouldn't give for the sole purpose of being able to cash in on it later. And I've seen that happen. So I've seen this gentleman, and for whatever reason, God has not elevated him. The biggest thing he has done is went on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, because that guy doing that podcast does not have integrity. So he will let anybody and a mama come on and sit on that couch. And he let a guy come on there, the guy I'm talking about, who did that type of underhanded marketing. He let that guy come on there. And that's the biggest thing the guy has ever done as far as reach and views. And but that gentleman has gone through 2 divorces. He's had 2 divorces. And I'm not talking about Keon Henderson, because Keon Henderson also, I just seen a clip of Keon and Shawnee on that same guy, the Dear Future Wifey guy, was interviewing them. And it's like, what is this? Like, what I don't know what the word is. Heretic, charlatan, like what is, like, y'all got a association or something of divorced, crooked, gaslighting manipulators association? Like, what is this? Like, why all y'all teaming up and like doing this stuff together? Like, and then bringing God in the mix. Like, if you want to do it, like, do it. Like, now there are white men who do this, but like a lot of the other races, when they want to be scammers and when they want to manipulate and when they want to deceive, when they want to, like, I watch American Greed all the time. Them white men don't mention God. They don't mention God. They finna take you for everything you worth, and but God ain't in the picture. Like, if you wanna raise money, if you wanna gaslight your ex-wife, don't mention God. Like, leave God out of it, because that's a dangerous game. That's crazy. And so this is the thing. So we go into this space, but if you're not sensitive to the voice of God, and men are not the only people who will go into this space. So some of these self-proclaimed prophetess are the same way, egotistical. And the word says, when it's talking about, like a pastor, it says that he should not be a new convert. Well, and it should be a man. There are women who are pastors and becoming pastors as a new convert. Now, new convert, that's subjective, because we don't know if new means like last month, or new means like last year, or if new. So it's subjective what new convert means, because to me, you're still a new convert at 5-year mark. Like, honestly, I feel like you're a new convert at 7.5 years, 10 years. Like, the the word it is it's a lot. to learn and to digest and to understand, and the level of wisdom and discernment, and then also the level of spiritual warfare and the amount of test that the devil will bring upon you, it takes time. Because so I don't believe people should be in the pulpit like under 10 years. Like if you haven't been in your word, like really in your word, and just learning and growing and being fed by the word for at least 10 years. And I'm seeing women who are what that same spirit, because the adversary doesn't discriminate. That spirit of self-entitlement, that spirit of self-proclaim, that spirit of arrogance and greed and just ego. And so what that gentleman said is like, if I've ever done something for you, do this for me. That right there. And that's the same thing that Keon Henderson said in one of his other videos where he playing for this $4 million. He was like, if my message has ever blessed you, it's like, what is it supposed to do? It's not your message. If you work for God, then it ain't got nothing to do with you. He said, if one of my sermons or one of my messages has ever blessed you, if it's ever been the word that you needed to can't remember what he said. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I thought it said something like, so that you didn't take your life, or so that you didn't do something. It was a few different examples, like, well, now I need you. And that ain't how we supposed to give as Christians, but that's what we do as men. And when I say we do as men, I don't mean every man. I don't mean every man. So you got to understand that. So if you got a husband that he's not in that season and he has not gone through that season, pray that he does not go through it. And let him watch this video, because sometimes we go through them seasons a lot of times when something changes in our life. It's typically associated with elevation. And it doesn't necessarily mean that like the money goes up drastically, but it can be the money. But if you notice, these men who going through divorces, they are like the ones we see in the media. They have fame, or they have money, or they have a title, or they have admiration of thousands of women. Those things affect us. It changes us. And it could have always been there, but you got to be sensitive to the spirit in order to see it. And if you're not sensitive I had to block somebody today who sounded like they was probably one of the people that I mentioned under a fake name, because came in the comments writing a complete full dissertation. And it's like, if you hear me say a name and you have watched even more than one of my videos, then you know where I come from with this, and you know why I'm addressing this stuff. I'm not a gossip blogger. What I am is a man who loves God, and I take that serious. And my thing is, I just don't want people to misrepresent God. I just do, because God has done too much for me. And I believe in God too much. And I know God is real. I do not want his name to be misrepresented in this world, because we got too much going on. It's too much confusion. It's too much. We need to be proper representation for the name of God, because there are so many people who are confused by what they seeing. And so if you gotta come in my comments and write a novel about somebody that I mentioned, that lets me know that you are suffering from idolatry. And I've seen people talk about me on their videos, and I've not seen anybody in the comments writing a dissertation defending me. But I wouldn't even want you to do that. It's different if you say something like, oh, whatever, but it shouldn't be no dissertation. There should be no idolatry because truthfully, we don't know anybody that we don't live with 24 hours a day. We don't know anybody. So I could say out of my mouth, oh, I'm faithful to my wife. You don't really know that though. So you can't really stamp a human. And that's why when when I coach clients on personal branding and like building their social media, and I'm teaching them like different posts and different ways to post, I would always say, be careful reposting humans. Like, be careful reposting and retweeting humans. If you have not studied this person for several years and like really been immersed, fully immersed in their work and know them personally, then don't repost them because you never know what somebody got going on. And of course, there's exception to the rules and things of that nature. And but if you immersed in somebody brand and you really studying, so like the video I shared with the Blessed Tribe from the Gentleman channel, that was probably like I probably been watching 10 videos, 15 videos, and I could feel the spirit. I could feel because it's another channel that does what he does, but that guy's spirit, I just something it ain't sitting well with my spirit. And I'm not judging them. Everything could be perfectly fine, but I just didn't feel what I need to feel about it. And so I don't share his stuff. I've never shared his stuff to the Blessed Tribe. But I say this to say is men have mental health issues and men have mental crisis and men have to learn how to communicate. And if you're a woman watching this, you have to talk to your man and you have to seek to understand and let him know you understand. And you got to give everything of you as well, and you also have to hold him accountable, and you got to let him know like, hey, I don't ever mention my name. If you're a woman watching this, never mention another man's name to your man. The only time you mention that is when he is on the outs and he trying to get right and he looking for a upstanding man that you know of to the best of your ability or that he knows of. And even if he find a guy online, look into that guy. And if it don't sit well with your spirit and you know it's some kind of toxic stuff coming out that man's mouth, and what have you, then speak up and say, no, I don't agree with that because I don't agree with what he's saying. And that's not the type of man that I would listen to. And that's not the type of man that I want you listening to because you got to be married to me. I got to be married to you. We need to be in agreement on the type of messaging. And if a man says, well, something is wrong with his message or he doing this, he doing that, then you have him show proof. Like, okay, well, how is he pandering? How is he only taking one side? How is he, making excuses for a woman? Like, show me where that's being done at, and then actually see it. But a lot of times, as men, we could be in the wrong and we do not want accountability. That's another reason why men are mean to women because of account a lack of accountability and a lack of a desire of accountability. So I could think of right now, like maybe 5 to 10 guys that I could think of right now who have my phone number, who have called me about collaboration, who have called me about work, about business, about donation, about whatever. But when they were going through a divorce, I did not hear from them. And it's because most men know when we are wrong and we want to fall on our sword. We don't want to be held accountable. We don't want to be corrected, and we want to go to somebody that's going to sing the song we want to hear. We don't want somebody that's going to call more out of us, that's going to hold us accountable, that's going to tell us when we wrong and tell us how we need to look at a situation, because they can see it clearly from the outside looking in. And that's why I thank God for having a father, and a lot of men don't have a father that they can call. And I thank God for my father, because my father has saved my marriage. Me being able to call my father, and him being a minister of the gospel, him being a man of God, and him, although he benefits from me, he does not enable me. Like my Bentley that I was talking about, I changed the tag after my wife confronted me about that. And she was like, when have you ever been the type of person to put a tag like "I pay me" on your car? She was like, that is not you. And I was like, you know what? You're right. That's not me, because I'm not like a braggadocious. Like the stuff I share about myself is for the purpose and the intent of teaching and making a personal example, using myself. But sometimes people have accused me of bragging, and I say, okay, well, maybe I got to say it differently, or maybe I just have to just leave it out altogether. And the Bible say, don't be a hindrance to your brethren. So I think it say that. Yeah, I could be lying. It might not say that. And so I say, well, you know what? Maybe I got to say it. Maybe I got to say it different, you know. Hey, let me see that, because it, just to make sure. Okay. It's kind of saying First Corinthians chapter 8, verse 9 says it. But let's see. Be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. And then the King James says, but take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. And so that's really what I was talking about. Okay. I see. See what we talking about. So in First Corinthians chapter 8, where it's talking about, we'll say verse 7, where it goes into, but not everyone possesses this knowledge. Some people are still so accustomed to idols that when they eat sacrificial food, they think of it as having been sacrificed to a god. And since their conscience is weak, it is defiled. But food does not bring us near to God. We are no worse if we do not eat, and no better if we do. Be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone with a weak conscience sees you with all your knowledge eating in an idol's temple, won't that person be emboldened to eat what is sacrificed to idols? So this weak brother or sister for whom Christ died is destroyed by your knowledge. When you sin against them in this way and wound their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if what I eat causes my brother or sister to fall into sin, I will never eat meat again, so that I will not cause them to fall. Am I not free? Am I not an apostle? Have I not seen Jesus our Lord? Are you not the result of my work in the Lord? Oh, that's chapter 9. So that's what I was talking about. Of, if I'm sharing my story and I'm sharing my experience or my testimony, some may call it, and it offends somebody and they think that I'm bragging and it makes them feel worse about their situation, then I don't want to do that. And that's one of the things that with men, when we have a change in our lifestyle, we have a change in our life, we get elevated, we get a position, We in a position of power. We're in a position of people are we're receiving admiration and adulation and praise and all of these things. We will that can affect us. And then if you notice, and now of course everyday men have divorces as well, and but at the root of it, a lot of times it's the same thing. It's meanness. It's the man being resentful. You don't cook enough. You don't clean enough. I want to have sex every day. You don't want to have sex every day. I want to have sex 3 times a day. I'm the man. You're supposed to do what I want to do when I want to do it. You're supposed to shut up and be quiet and do what I tell you to do, because my ex used to do this, or this woman over here used to do this, or this woman over there doing this. I go to work, woman I work with bring me lunch every day. It'd be something like that, to where he could be a everyday man, like he's not famous, he don't have money, but he is comparing somebody or something to his wife. He has this inflated sense of who he is and what he deserves, and it's making him resent her for not meeting him at his imagination of his level, and where he's supposed to be, and what he's supposed to be getting, and how she's supposed to be treating him, and how she's supposed to be talking to him. And he just has an unrealistic expectation. And that's the same thing that keeps a lot of single men single, is an unrealistic expectation of what a woman is, who she is, and who she's supposed to be, and how she's supposed to be. And that's what this is causing. So me personally, like being married, I am also someone who can be mean. So when you could be a mean man or a mean person, then you can recognize when somebody else could be mean. And not all meanness is yelling. Not all meanness is physical abuse. Not all meanness is cheating. There's other ways to be mean, with your words and with your actions and with your presence and your attitude, your energy. It's other ways to be mean. It's other ways to isolate a woman, alienate a woman, ostracize a woman, control a woman, demean a woman, just really like proverbially uh, proverbially spitting in her face without literal spit going into her face. We as men can spit in the face of our woman with our words, with our actions, with our ways. And that is what is leading to a lot of these divorces. Now, does that mean a woman is innocent in every divorce? Absolutely not. We use common sense here. But what we are seeing, like in the media right now, we're seeing men file for a divorce and or going through a divorce because the woman is filing for divorce. And then we see some men do things and their marriage they don't go through a divorce. For example, Kevin Hart was allegedly or supposedly caught cheating on his wife, and they're still married. We know Magic Johnson was said to be cheating on his wife, and that's how he contracted HIV, and he's still married. We have seen, we heard tell of Dwayne Wade having a what they call break baby on his wife, Gabrielle Union, and they're still married. Ludacris, it was said that he had a quote unquote break baby on his wife, and he's still married. So we have seen couples go through tough things and work through it. I just seen a post about the singer LaToya Luckett, who, I know her personally, and she follows me online, and we were in Tulum at the same time when she was getting ready for her wedding. It was like her bridal, what you call it, bachelorette party or whatever. And me and my wife and some other couples, we were there at the beach. And LaToya Luckett came up and we talked, and she talked to my wife and all that, because we already know each other. And I seen somebody post, her ex post 3 rings in 7 years, GOAT status or something like that. That's why she divorced him. because he is immature. He is a gaslighter. He is probably was abusive or controlling or just disrespectful and mean, because it's like, okay, if a woman has moved on and she is in a new relationship, why are you posting about her? Like, go get you a new woman. Go work on yourself. Get you some help. Get you some therapy and move on with your life. Like, why are you trying to rain on her parade? But what it shows is because Latoya Luckett was with the guy that I mentioned to y'all before, who was a relationship poet, Rob Hill Sr. She was with him. She wasn't showing him or nothing like that. Then she showed him, and then it became public. And then boom, not long after they was done. And we never really heard the story of like what happened. Like, I don't even know what happened. And I'm in the industry and I don't have a clue what happened. And then after that, she got with the next guy, and then they got married, and it looked like it was supposed to be promising and stuff like that. I felt like it wasn't gonna work just because of the shape of the guy's face. And I say that not necessarily being facetiously, but in criminology, there used to be a jaw line and a facial structure for murderers. Like back in the day, way in the beginning of back in the day, I wouldn't say the beginning of like criminology, they had a certain facial type for criminals. And I just could tell by the elongation of the guy's face that there would be some insecurity there. There would be some insecurity that would show up in the wrong way. So I didn't believe in it. And the same thing with the first guy, Rob Hill Sr. He's short. And so being, what y'all call a short king, and then he also, was a little pudgy, but not, off and on, you can tell like a little bit of a weight issue every now and then being shorter, and then also not really having money. I knew that that was going to lead to some insecurity. And so both of those ended. And the one thing that I respect about that, and this is what women need to understand: if you have a mean man, and when I say mean, you can encompass like insecure man, controlling man, distant man, disrespectful man, like not just like this one idea of mean, like like a little kid on the playground, mean, like, oh, pull your ponytail or push you off the swing. Don't you know what I mean? Mean just means that emotionally unintelligent. And one thing I respect about the Latoya Luckett situation is she not putting up with your mess. So this new husband that she has, if he turns out to be insecure and controlling and jealous of her being, a influencer, a person in the media, he gonna get left too. And I don't blame her. And so if you are a woman and you find that you with a man who is immature or disrespectful, and you've tried everything you know how to try, like you try to communicate with him, you try to talk to him, you try to speak his language, you try to get counseling, therapy, coaching, you didn't try it, you got to leave him. You got to leave him. Because the way we are wired as men, we respond to consequences. If there's not structure and consequences, we don't respond. Like, we're just not wired that way. We need consequences. That's what really shakes us up. And I know it sounds unfair to a woman, because a woman is like, oh, well, why do I have to do all that? And why do I have to leave a man for him to change? That means he never wanted me. That means I'm not the one for him. If I got to pretend to leave or get up to actually leave or whatever. And that's not entirely true. And it's not really true at all, because the way men are, we push things to the limit. And when I'm saying this, I'm speaking on average. There are exceptions to the rule, but I'm speaking on average. But we push things to the limit. So we want the max of what we can get out of something. We want blood out of a turnip. Like, we want lemonade out of a watermelon. Like, the men are that's that nature of being a hunter, being a gambler, like taking risks, being a builder, being a gatherer, whatever it is, the patriarch, starting families, all of them things, if it's not bridled by Christ, if we're not renewed, if we're not in submission to our creator, if we're not walking with the Lord, we become unhinged and we become uncontrollable. And the only person that can control a man is himself being in submission to God. So the power of God will help a man walk upright. But that again it has to be a willing choice, because God does not force us or make us do anything. And so we got to be willing to be held accountable. Like the lady said that it went viral, who gonna check me, boo? That really is what men be saying. But that's was my example of some women could be like that too. And the lady who made that famous, who gonna check me, boo, that's a prime example of that. And just like the young lady that some of y'all prophetess, Tiffany Montgomery, she had that same spirit, just that real arrogant, who gonna check me, boo spirit. And it's one of those things to where we have to learn how to be in submission to God so that we could check ourselves, so that when we see the error of our ways, we don't make excuses for it. I seen last night, I was on this thing on YouTube, and I was watching the gentleman videos, and his video was about the young lady, Tiffany Montgomery, and her video, I searched the name, and then she was live and had over 5,000 people watching it. And it's like, for God's true servants, we really don't even have that. For the people that's really serving God and walking with God. And I clicked on it, I seen the comments, and all the comments, everybody was in defense. They were not in the spirit of God. Like every comment said, Lord, smite. Lord, smite. Every comment was like asking God to hurt somebody. I said, this is a cult. This is demonic. Every comment was like, Lord, smite it's a word they use, the watcher, or the monitoring. It was like, I, I about holler. I'm like, that's not the Holy Spirit. Like, you're not fit to be with the Holy Spirit, and all you think about is your haters, your so-called haters, which ain't nobody hating, because ain't nothing to hate. Like, what is somebody gonna hate? Like, I don't understand it. It ain't like, what is there to hate? So people not even interceding. It was 5,000 people on this live. I was on there about 30 seconds. I said, Lord, let me get out. I said, Lord, let me get out of here for one of these demonic spirits be to jump out, try to jump over here on me. Because it's like, that's not how you spend time with the Lord. Just, Lord, smite, Lord, smite, Lord, smite the monitoring spirits. Like, monitoring? Like, what? That's the monitoring spirit. Like, what is, like, what are we talking about? Like, are you kidding me? And then the brother that I was telling you about, his channel, Smart Christian's channel, he shows her and other people, and he might have one of me on there misusing the scripture, even though I try everything I can. Y'all see me type it up, look it up, and look through, just try to correct. But he shows, and he show their videos, and he show how they doctrine is off. And I mean, that young lady, Tiffany Montgomery, I mean, the brother was able to get so much good content off of her, because I mean, when I tell you, somebody being a butcher of the word. I'm like, yeah, just taking the word and yeah, need to work in one of them hibachi restaurants. How's he doing the word? I'm like, ma'am, that ain't what that's talking about. That's not what that means. I just say, my goodness. So that spirit that gets on men, it also could get on women. And so you got to be mindful and you got to be careful too. If you are a woman watching this, that spirit don't get, and typically the same thing. It shows up when a woman gets money, when a woman gets fame, when a woman has a following, when a woman has a position, when a woman has a title, she can have that same arrogant, mean, nasty spirit. And I have been guilty of it myself. That's how I can easily recognize it. And the Lord has been doing a work on me and working on just the way that I approach a tough conversation with people. Cause I'm gonna do a video on this, but I'm a well, it may not need to be a video, but what God has gifted you with can be used for good through Him, or it can be used for evil through the devil. So what you have to realize is that just because somebody is saying the name of God does not mean they're being used by God. Because if they are a plant by Satan, they are planted by Satan in the kingdom of Christ, in the body of Christ, to deceive. And I had never heard of some of these people, like the guy Carlton Pearson or whoever. I heard the name, but I'd never looked it up because I just had never heard of him. But the gentleman on that channel I've been watching, I think it's called Smart Christian's Channel, and y'all forgive me if it's not, but he showed a video from, I don't know how long ago it was, with Carlton Pearson, and then he showed that, I think it was Mike Todd, the Pastor Mike Todd, like paying, I don't know if you call it homage or homage to this gentleman. And I don't know if the gentleman has passed away now, if that was the case. I'm not sure, but let me see here. But the guy was, he showed, yes, he passed November 19, 2023. So 6373. So 70 years old. So at 70, I don't know. Okay, so he put, I'm guessing he was maybe he was the guy that put Mike Todd on. And now it all makes sense. Now it all makes sense. Okay. It all makes sense now. That all makes sense. But he showed some of this gentleman's teachings, and it basically was like that same spirit, what I'm talking about, which I don't have a name for it, and I don't know if it has a name, but it's a spirit that gets on us men in seasons in our life where it makes us arrogant, and it gives us a God-like complex to where we it's almost like we don't want to surrender and submit to God because we think we are the highest, or like we like the highest creation. And you notice this of like, even like in rappers like a Jay-Z, And that line that he has in the song with Jay-Z, lyrics in New York. Let me see. I can't even play it. I was trying to look to see if they had it written out somewhere. But in there where he says like life starts when the church ends. That's not even it. And I think it says like Hail Mary, even Jesus can't save you, or something like that. And so, and that's the same thing of like where you see these men, and this happens on every level. Y'all got to forgive me, but this a deep topic. Even though the title is simple, it's a deep topic because this is a spiritual thing, and it's so dangerous. And this is the same spirit that is, unfortunately, I know a lot of y'all get mad about this, but it's the same spirit that I see on Donald Trump. It's the same spirit that I see on Kanye West. It's the same spirit that I see on sometimes Elon Musk. It's a spirit of like invincibility, like a spirit of like a godlike complex. But see, the thing is it can happen at any level. So let me give you an example. If a man is working at the factory and he's making 30K, and then after like 7 years, he gets promoted, or like 10 years, they make him the supervisor of the whole factory, and he goes from 30K to 70K. If we could do a study on how many men have gone through a divorce after elevation, promotion, raise, increase. And that's why it's so commonly said where people say, oh, when men get on, they leave their woman. And it's so many like different examples that people will use of men getting on, like getting money or getting to that position, getting to a place, and then the marriage no longer works out because now they at a new level of money or respect or income or notoriety or what have you. They're at this new level. I'm getting all these messages from these companies, but they marketing up. Y'all forgive my son text me. So, a 17-year-old asking for permission. Go to the beach tomorrow. I had to tell him you gotta do his homework for Tuesday since no school Monday. Do your Tuesday homework today. Get it out the way. No procrastination. So this spirit right here is very serious. And this is what starts to take on. So now we're going to go into what should a woman do? How should a woman, and that could be a separate video, huh? That probably could be a separate video. So understand this, that, which we'll talk about it, but understand this, that when you see, you have to be mindful. If you know a man, or you with a man, but even if it's like your son or your brother or your father, if you see a man get elevation in his life, like he get a title or he gets more money or he goes viral or he gets anything, you have to be able to look and see. And you got to talk, you got to have that ounce of prevention and say, hey, listen, you know, a lot of men become very arrogant and you can't tell them nothing, and untouchable when they get elevated. And I want you to be mindful of that. And I want you to know that I'm going to still speak truth to you, and I'm going to hold you accountable. If I see your ego and you start to change and you start to act different, and it's pretty much across the board. It's pretty much across the board. Like, you rarely see a man get elevation and him not become some type of arrogant or some type of what have you. There are some men now, but even the men, they still have their ways. And their ways could be like I know some pro athletes who are really nice guys, and they don't seem arrogant and they don't seem rude. They don't seem mean. They sign every autograph, but yet can't keep a relationship because of infidelity, because they just can't behind closed doors be honest. And it's just things fall apart. So that's what you got to realize and understand. And oh no, I'm missing the game. Team I spoke to, I ain't speak to him this year, but I spoke to him last year in training camp. Clemson football team, they playing right now against Georgia. And my niece half brother used to play for Georgia last year, but he transferred. So I have a little connection to both of those teams, and they started playing 36 minutes ago. And I said I was gonna be back home to watch the game, and here I am up here running my mouth. But I want you to think about this, and this is something that you got to sit with this. Maybe watch it back again, check it out, listen to it, let it play, and understand that this is a common thing. And when I say spirit, I don't necessarily mean like an actual demonic spirit. It could be a personality disorder that happens when the brain is receiving different stimulus, like when there's a different perception of self based on how societal constructs were, and now how we shift inside of those constructs or that hierarchy, and how that new stimuli affects our brain and how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive others, because we now are up the ladder in the hierarchy of society and not being able to handle that power. And so when you look around, you're going to see this in men and in women. So this not just a male thing. This also happens with women as well. So you have to be mindful of it, because if you have elevation in your life, or you go into another space, or you go to another level, will you start to look down on people? Will you start to resent the people who were there for you when you were nothing? When not literally nothing, but before you got that elevation or that title or that position or that money? Did you talk out your mouth with that sharpness and that rudeness and that condescending tone before you got that money, or before you got that fame or that recognition or that title or that position? Were you like that? So you got to think about that. And now let me touch on this, just because I don't know if I'm gonna get to do this on another video. I'm gonna do it on another video. Another video. Hey, God bless you. Make sure you click the link in the description and take a look at the SEC regulated, this Securities and Exchange Commission. It is regulated. That's why I can't talk numbers on here. You got to click the link in the description. Go over there, read everything. You're gonna see the Q&A on the Q&A. And now what I can say, we got to hit the minimum. If it doesn't hit the minimum, then I keep all my channel to myself. Keep the channel to myself. But if it hits the minimum, then it activates it, because that's how it was promoted. So it can't hit the minimum, and then I'll be like, no, can't do it. Or it doesn't work to where like, oh, we don't hit the minimum, so then we could scale it back and say, well, now the new minimum is this. No, it's all or nothing. So if it don't go all the way and hit the minimum, then I don't make no change, unless they come and tell me, well, actually you can take it down lower based on the SEC regulations. I ain't been told that yet, and I don't know nothing about that. So what I've been told, if we don't get the minimum, then everybody will be made whole. Everything will be returned. So it's not like, as y'all are investing money coming to my account and I'm to the ball, yeah, I ain't seen a dime. I don't see a dime. It go to an escrow account, and it has to sit there until it's activated. So either until we hit the minimum, or we hit the minimum, cross the minimum, and then the deadline happens. So whenever the deadline is, then that's when it is activated, and that's when we get going. But I can't talk numbers on here, is what I've been told due to the SEC regulations. But when you go to the page, you're going to see the Q&A. And people have most likely already asked the question that you have, so you could see my answer to it. And thank you. I really appreciate you. Even if we don't get there, I appreciate the love and support and just even the thought. Tony Gasson here. God bless you. We'll talk soon.